Good Monday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. We have got a wonderful show planned for you. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. What about the kids? Diddy's kids. You know, my friends, sometimes in criminal cases we forget about the children of the defendants. The children don't ask to be part of the criminal case. And it's traumatic seeing their parent accused and incarcerated and standing trial. I was sitting in the courtroom 5 rows behind Diddy's 6 adult children on Friday. I saw the love on their faces. I saw the worry. I saw the pain. They're very brave standing by their dad. Now, even though they're not case victims, they are victims in another sense, in the sense that their lives have been turned upside down with public scrutiny and the trauma and learning about the case details. Think about it. What must that be like for them? Not being able to hug their dad right now, not being sure their dad's ever going to come back home to them. Yes, these children are very wealthy, and growing up, their lives must have been anything but ordinary. But money can't cure pain. Seeing those kids leaning on each other and on their grandma for support tugged at my heartstrings. And this morning on this program, we're going to be examining the facts of the case, the arguments, and the jury. But I wanted to just kick off the show by recognizing how difficult this must be for those kids. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket. And in New York City, the case I was just talking about, deliberations are beginning this morning in Diddy's federal sex trafficking and racketeering trial. And that is, of course, our top story this morning as people all around the world are getting ready to go on a verdict watch. The 55-year-old music mogul has pleaded not guilty to sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy charges. The jury has heard wildly different arguments from the government and from Diddy's defense team when it comes to each side's interpretation of the facts of the case.
Again and again, that criminal enterprise serviced the defendant's every desire through a methodical pattern of violence, coercion, and manipulation. The defendant counted on silence and shame to keep his crimes hidden. He thought that his fame, wealth, and power put him above the law. But over the course of this trial, his crimes have been exposed.
Attorney Mark Agnifilo delivered the closing argument for the Diddy defense team, saying that jurors heard a tale of 2 trials, as told by the evidence about a lifestyle of swingers and threesomes, and another one, and quote, exaggerated trial by the federal government. So this morning we're asking, what is the jury thinking as they're getting ready to head into deliberations? I've got 2 outstanding guests ready to talk about this with me. In the studio, I have high-profile criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Noah Pines, and outside of the courthouse, I have the editor-in-chief of the Hip Hop Inquirer, somebody who's been covering this trial every single day, been in the courtroom every day watching the action, Dennis Byron. Dennis, good morning. Noah, good morning.
Good morning.
Dennis, let me begin with you, please. As you've been in the courtroom looking at the jury, what have you been able to glean in watching them in terms of what they may be thinking as they go into the courtroom this morning?
One of the things I look at is what jurors are listening to the lawyers and which jurors are taking notes. What I saw in with the closing from Ms. Slavic, I saw jurors taking notes. What I saw with Mr. Nicolio, when he was doing his closing, they were looking at him. It feels like they were really connecting with him. When he moved, and you were in the courtroom when I was in the courtroom, when he moved to the left or right, they watched him, they listened to him. I saw some note taking. I saw a lot of jurors paying attention to what he was saying. And he made some very good points.
Yes, and you just made such an important point, Dennis. Thank you for that. The connection that a lawyer can make with a juror is the goal in every trial. Noah Pines, is it not, when you're trying to just somehow make that connection? What do you think, hearing what Dennis just shared with us?
Well, sometimes you're giving a closing and the jurors are nodding and they're taking notes. And this has happened to me, in my last trial. I'm like, I've got this jury. There's no question about it. And the evidence was significant, and they convicted my client very quickly. I thought I had them just from watching them. So sometimes, you could have them there, but when you go back to that jury room, depending on how they deliberate, and if they start and go, well, what did the judge tell us? They almost reset. So it's a little deceiving. It really is. And it's really deceiving on the heart when you're like, I got them.
You thought they were with you, right? I've been there, no. I've been there when I've had looking at me, nodding and then they
taking
go
notes.
the other way.
Yeah.
Right. And
sleeping when the state is doing their closing, and then they come out with one-word verdict.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah. Sleeping, never a good sign. We know that. But sometimes maybe laughing could be. Dennis, let me go back to you. On Friday, when Mark Agnifilo delivered the close, there were two moments. I know you caught this, when he made jokes. He joked about the federal government seizing all the Astroglide, keeping the streets safe from the Astroglide. And then he made a joke about the dope, because we're talking about such small amounts in the alleged distribution under the racketeering conspiracy. And he said, look, people can't grow their own Xanax. You got to get it from somewhere. And Dennis, I saw 3 jurors laughing both times. Your thoughts on what that might indicate?
That they don't take the prosecution, that part of the evidence, serious. I mean, let's be honest. This guy was I hate to say it, but he was a dope fiend. He used a lot of drugs. All the witnesses that came in and testified of his drug use said he used all kind of drugs. They used drugs. So if you're using drugs, but then when they did the raid, they didn't find kilos of cocaine or Xanax or weight of drugs. They found, when he was arrested, they found drugs for his personal usage. And I think that's going to prove that this man had a drug problem, not moving drugs, so to speak.
Right, Dennis. Yeah, I can see it. Noah, you know, the government's characterizing a couple people as mules. You know, we hear about that with Jane, one of Diddy's girlfriends, taking some small amounts of pills on an airplane, probably flying, you know, maybe private, if not private, first class, to go to the high-end hotel. His assistant, Brendan Paul, the former basketball player at Syracuse, who would transport small amounts, you know, to the different freak-offs, still against the law. But might a jury say, well, is this that big of a deal because he's not selling it and profiting?
Yeah, I'm sure this happens all the time, right? Millions of people are flying. I'm sure some boyfriend or girlfriend is like, hey, can you bring my pills? Or I don't have my pills. Can I have your pills? I forgot my pills. Can I have you? That's all illegal. And so it could be enough for the jury to convict, and they could say, we don't really care about it. That'd be like a jury nullification. Right,
right, exactly, Noah. I want to take a look at the jury makeup, who's on this jury. So we have a graphic, we'll put it up on the screen for all of our wonderful courties to look at home. So there are going to be 12 deliberating jurors. Of those 12, 8 are men, 4 of them are women. Okay, Dennis, do you think that sex is going to factor in here so much in this case? We've got more men who are going to be on this jury deliberating, less women. How much of that do you think will be a factor?
I think it's going to be a big factor. When Mr. Agnifilo talked about the government coming to your bedroom and your hotel room, you know, as a man, I don't know if I want the government in my bedroom. Not that I have Astroglide or baby oil, but the fact that the thought of that setting the president, if he gets convicted of this, and this is, you know, this is like you said, you know, a threesome, a lifestyle. Even Jane Doe said it was a lifestyle. So I would be very concerned as a man that they consider that as one of the predicates.
Sure, the privacy, right? Mark Agnifilo did a great job helping the jury think about how this case would not have been brought into existence had it not been for the Cassie video that became public, that horrific beating video. And Noah, to that point, defense counsel characterized it as a money grab. They said that Cassie was looking for money, not justice, sued for $30 million. His words, not mine. He said, right now, members of the jury, as we're talking here today, Cassie's somewhere in the world with $30 million. And so that's one way of looking at it. The other way, Noah, you've been a prosecutor like I have, the federal government had an obligation, did they not, once this became public, to investigate to see if there were any crimes, and they say they found sex trafficking, transportation to commit prostitution, and 8 different racketeering crimes. Yeah, your thoughts?
The video is bad, right? And horrible. You know, maybe those 8 men on the jury have sisters or daughters or wives, And that's probably one of the reasons why he didn't testify. I mean, that's a really bad piece of evidence, and that there's always a piece of evidence that's real hard to overcome, and that could be enough where the jury's like, you know what, he's a bad guy. And that could sway them if there's enough evidence, you know, if they're on the fence of determining enough evidence or not enough evidence.
Right, right.
I mean, how do you excuse that?
Oh, right, you don't. And Mark Agnifilo made a point to say that it's inexcusable, it's illegal, and he just made that distinction, really brilliant distinction, saying he's not on trial for domestic violence.
Right.
Otherwise, he would have pleaded and you wouldn't be here, members of the jury. Dennis Byron, before we have to let you go for now, I sure hope you'll be willing to come back. I love your insight. Tell me, what's it been like seeing the support for Diddy, and if there's any support you've seen throughout the progression of the trial for the various listed victims on the indictment, Cassie, Jane. When I was there just those 2 days for closing arguments, I saw attorneys there for, I know one was Cassie's attorney, I'm presuming the other one was Jane's. I didn't see groups of people overtly carrying signs or anything in support of those women. I did see a lot of Diddy supporters carrying signs. Would you tell me what the factions of support have been like?
Well, who had the most support out of the witnesses was Mia. Mia had about 5 people that came in with her, 5 to 6 people came in with her. Like you said, Doug Whittor, who represents Cass, he's been there every day. And as far as Mia's concerned, she had an attorney, but that's it. I hadn't seen any protests outside the courthouse. Not like, you know, right, women's activist groups. I hadn't seen none of that out here. And you've been here, you see what kind of dramas outside the courthouse, nothing to do with the case. But right. As far as support, Mr. Combs has a lot of support. I mean, you see all the roles filled up. And there are a lot of his supporters in the overflow rooms, and there are 4 overflow rooms. So why you don't see him in the courtroom, think I can't get in, he has a lot of support in the overflow rooms.
He does. You're right, Dennis. On Friday, when Mark Agnifilo finished, I'm sure you heard about this. The courtroom burst into, erupted into applause. People in that overflow room applauding what Mark Agnifilo did. So that was quite a moment. Again, not in the actual courtroom, but as Dennis noted, there have been so many overflow rooms that have been created because of the large number of people converging. And Dennis, stay safe out there, as it can be wild on the streets there, as I saw. Stay safe. Be well. Great insight. Dennis Byron, the editor-in-chief.
Julie, I hit him with the bows. Hit him with the bows.
There you go. Hit him with the bows. Exactly. You protect yourself, my friend. Dennis Byron, the editor-in-chief of the Hip Hop Inquirer. Thank you so much. We'll look forward to having you back soon.